beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your cell cycle. Please note that your cell cycle, this is actually a series of events where the cells go through as they grow and divide. This is actually fundamental to the growth and development of all living organisms. Again, your cell cycle is fundamental to the growth and development of all living organisms. And please note that your cell cycle, it has three phases, or it has phases, by the way. Okay, it has two phases. You have your interphase and your mitotic phase. And yes, your interphase is divided into three subphases, and your mitotic phase is divided into four subphases. Okay, and yes, your cell cycle during the interphase, okay, the cell grows and replicates its DNA, and during the M phase, or during the mitotic phase, the cell divides. There is a karyokinesis, or a division of the nuclei, and or division of the nucleus, and cytokinesis, which is the division of your cytoplasm, leading to the formation of daughter cells, two daughter cells. Okay, before we take a look at your cell cycle, let's take a look first at your cells. Classification of your cells based on their capacity to divide, okay? Or based on their proliferative capacity. First on this one is your labile cells, or your labile cells. Your labile cells, they are these are cells that continuously divide throughout life. Okay, they continuously divide throughout life to replace cells that are lost due to normal wear and tear. Okay, labile cells. Okay, they do not stop dividing. Okay, your labile cells, they have high mitotic activity and they have a short cell cycle. Okay, please note they have high mitotic activity and they have short cell cycle. A very good example of your labile cells are your keratinocytes, or your skin cells. Okay, your keratinocytes, or your skin cells. What else? Yes, okay, your keratinocytes, or your skin cells. Your blood cells, okay, your red cells, they are also, yes, they are also example of this one. Okay, and then you have your quiescent cells. Like, you have your quiescent cells. These cells, they do not normally divide, but they can re-enter the cell cycle and divide when stimulated by injury or loss of tissue. Okay, they do not normally divide. Once they reach the once the organ, or once the organ has reached its mature form, okay, or mature size or form. Again, once the organ reach its mature size or mature form, these quiescent cells do not re-enter the cell cycle. They are arrested at G0, or gap zero, or the resting phase. But okay, they do not divide, or they do not re-enter the cell cycle and do not divide. But when stimulated by injury or loss of tissue, like let's say, yes, there is a loss, okay, the portion of the tissue was cut, okay, these quiescent cells, they can be reactivated and undergo cell cycle. Okay, your quiescent cells, they divide in response to growth factors or damage. Okay, and a very good example is your hepatocytes. Please note your hepatocytes, or your liver cells. Okay, they are examples of quiescent cells. Okay, take a look. If a portion of the liver is removed, okay, if a portion of the liver is removed, like let's say, for example, in case of liver transplant, okay, a portion of your liver was removed for liver transplant, your cells that phenomenon or that occurrence, the removal of that portion will stimulate the replication or the division, or yes, will stimulate the division of your remaining cells in the liver. Okay, that is for your quiescent cells. And then you have your permanent cells. Your permanent cells, these are cells that are terminally differentiated, and they have lost their ability to divide under normal conditions. Okay, they again terminally differentiated cells for your permanent cells. They have lost their ability to divide under normal conditions. And please note that, okay, in case of permanent cells or in organs that are made up of permanent cells, the damage is irreversible. Okay, the damage is irreversible. The cells cannot replicate to replace the damaged cells. Okay, examples of permanent cells, you have nerve cells and cardiomyocytes. By the way, in case of damage is irreversible, okay, in permanent cells, the injury is permanent and often results into fibrosis or scarring. Okay, often results into fibrosis or scarring. Like, okay, actually, your infarcts, okay, your your infarcts in the heart, they are actually scars. They are accordingly scar tissues. Yes, you have your permanent cells, quiescent cells, and labile cells or labile cells. Okay, so showing you here your cell cycle. Okay, for what you call this, for your labile cells, okay, for your labile cells, right after, okay, for your labile cells, right after the production of two daughter cells, the daughter cells will go right away to G1. Okay, but then in case of quiescent cells, right after the production of the daughter cells, they can get arrested. Okay, they can go to G0, or you call it as, yes, they can, your quiescence or differentiation. Okay, or resting phase. They can go to G0 or resting phase or outside phase. Okay, and after G1, of course, after gap 1, you have synthesis phase, and then gap 2, and then M phase, you have the mitotic phase. Okay, take a look at this one. Okay, 25 hours for your, okay, 25 hours for your G1, and then 8 hours for S phase, and then a short period for G2 and M phase accordingly. Okay, and yes, okay, in G1, okay, the cells, the size of the cells are restored to normal. Okay, because during the production, I mean, right after cytokinesis, the size of the cell is smaller comparing it with the size of the cell at G1. Okay. And so at G1, the size of the cell increases, or there is the growth of this growth in size. And then in your S phase or your synthesis phase, you have your DNA replication. Again, in G1, by the way, it prepares the cell for DNA replication, DNA synthesis, and G2, and then M phase finally. Okay, your cell cycle, as what we said, it is a series of events within the cell that prepares the cell for dividing into two daughter cells. Okay, you have two major phases. You have interphase and mitosis. For the interphase, the cell increases its size and content and replicates its genetic material. In interphase, everything should be doubled. Okay, the size of the cell will increase, and then the contents of the cell should be doubled. Okay, the contents of the cell should be doubled, and these doubled contents should be equally distributed in the daughter cells. You have your mitosis. After interphase, of course, you have mitosis. Your cells divide its nucleus first. You call that as karyokinesis. And then cytoplasm. Next is the cytoplasm. You call that as cytokinesis, the cytoplasmic division. Okay, right after cytoplasmic division, you have two daughter cells. Okay, again, showing you an image of your cell cycle. Okay, right after production, these cells will go to for labile cells. These cells will go right away to G1 phase. If quiescent cells, they will go to G0 or outside phase or exit phase or resting phase accordingly. Okay. Sorry. By the way, for the whole of interface, okay. And so the G1 phase is not 25 hours. Okay. And the G1 phase, correction for that, the G1 phase is not 25 hours. It's 8 to 10 hours. And then the S phase, it's 8 hours. And then your G2 phase is 4 to 6 hours. And the M phase is somewhat short also. For your G1, okay, the G1 phase, the cell increases its size and the cell is metabolically active, duplicates the organelles and cytosolic components as well as the centrosome replication begins. And then during the S phase, the DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid, the genetic material, okay, please note of that, the genetic material is replicated. Okay, and the G2 phase, the cell growth continues, the enzymes and other proteins are synthesized, and centrosome replication is completed. And then you have your mitotic phase. You have your M phase, you have your prophase, your metaphase, your anaphase, and telophase. Please note this is the cell cycle. Okay, it is not only the M phase. Okay, it is not only the M phase. Okay, so as what we said, you have GAP1, that is the synthesis of, for GAP1, synthesis of macromolecules that are essential for DNA replication begins. Okay, the cytosolic components are duplicated. Okay, and centrosome replication begins, or some centrosome duplication begins accordingly. And during the S phase, DNA, the genetic material is doubled or duplicated, and gap 2, the cell undergoes preparation for mitosis. In this one, everything is at the end of gap 2. At the end of gap 2, everything should be doubled. Everything should be doubled. Please note that in interphase, this is the time between mitotic events. Okay, this is the time between your mitotic events. Okay, in your GAP1, your cells synthesize RNA, regulatory proteins that are essential to DNA replication, and enzymes necessary to carry out the synthetic activities. Okay, in GAP1, the cell volume is restored to normal. Okay, because again, the cells produced after the telophase is somewhat smaller. Okay, so in gap 1, the cell volume, the cell increases. Okay, the cell increases and the cell volume is restored to normal. The nucleoli is re-established here. Please note, the nucleoli is re-established in gap 1. Okay, nucleoli is re-established in gap 1. And the centrosome. Okay, please note, when you say centrosome, it has the centrioles. Your centrioles, okay, your centrioles, they make up the centrosome. So your centrosome duplication begins during gap 1, and the duplication of centrosome is completed in gap 2. Okay, let's take a look at your GAP1 stimulating factors here. You have stimulating factors. Please note that your GAP1 stimulating factors, you have three listed here. You have, what you call this, the factors that stimulates the cell to go to GAP1. Okay? Factors that stimulates the cell to go to GAP1. Number one, mechanical force or mechanical trauma to the cell, of course. Then, injury to the tissue. Okay, if there is an injury, what will happen? It should be repaired. The injury should be repaired. And what is needed for the injury to be repaired? You need more cells. You need the same cells. Okay, and cell death. Of course, you need to replace the dead cells. Okay, these stimulating factors, this mechanical force, this injury to the tissue, and cell death, they cause the release of ligands, or these stimulating factors, they will cause the release of ligands. Okay, they will cause the release of ligands by signaling cells in the involved tissue. And what are these ligands? These ligands, okay, they are growth factors. Okay, they are growth factors that will indirectly induce the expression of proto-oncogenes. Okay, again, these stimulating factors, okay, from the top, your stimulating factors will cause the release of ligands by your signaling cells in the involved tissue. And what are these ligands? These ligands, they are growth factors that will indirectly induce the expression of proto-oncogenes. What are your proto-oncogenes? By the way, when we say proto-oncogenes, they are normal. Again, when you say proto-oncogenes, they are normal. Okay? These proto-oncogenes, these are genes that are responsible for controlling the proliferative pathways of the cell. Okay, these are genes, when you say proto-oncogenes, these are normal. And these are genes that are responsible for controlling the proliferative pathways of the cell. And please note that your proto-oncogenes, they are very strictly regulated. Okay, they are very strictly regulated to prevent unwanted and uncontrolled cell proliferation. Okay, because your oncogenes, okay, this is the time, your oncogenes, these are abnormal already. Your oncogenes, these are mutations in the proto-oncogenes that enable the cell to escape control, and they can divide in an unrestrained fashion. And please note that these oncogenes, these are responsible for many cancers. Okay, they are responsible for many cancers. Anyway, okay, so yes, your ligands, of course, your ligands, they bind to the cell surface receptor proteins of the target cell. Okay, the ligands binds the ligands bind to cell surface receptor proteins of the target cell, and then they will activate one of the signal transduction pathways. They will activate the signal transduction pathways. Of course, there is a stimulus. There is a stimulus. Okay, and this stimulus should be transferred, should be transduced. Okay, these extracellular signals, they are transduced into intracellular events, into series of intracellular events. And yes, it involves sequential activation of a cascade of cytoplasmic protein kinases. These protein kinases, they activate a series of intranuclear transcription factors that regulates the expression of proto-oncogenes, resulting in cell division. Okay, resulting in cell division. Okay, so there is a series of events. Okay, the ligands will bind to the cell surface receptors. Of course, the receptors are located at the outer leaflet of the membrane. Okay, and then the binding will activate the signal transduction pathway, and this what you call this extracellular signal, the ligand is transduced into intracellular events. Okay, let's take a look. You have here your cyclins and CDKs. Your capability of the cell to begin and advance through the cell cycle is governed by the presence of cyclins. Okay, again, the capability of the cell to begin and advance through the cell cycle is governed by the presence of cyclins. You have your cyclins and your CDKs, your cyclin dependent kinases. Okay, so your cyclins, they are regulatory proteins that play a central role in controlling the cell cycle. Your by the way, your cyclin D, please note your cyclin D, which is synthesized in early G1, okay? Please note we are still at gap 1, okay? Your cyclin D, which is synthesized in early G1, will bind to cyclin-dependent kinase 4 and cyclin-dependent kinase 6. Okay? And your cyclin E, which is synthesized in late G1 or sorry, which is synthesized in late GAP1, will bind to cyclin-dependent kinase 2. And the binding of the CD of cyclin D and cyclin E to the respective CDKs will permit the cell to enter and progress through the S phase. Okay, if cyclin D binds to CDK4 and CDK5 and cyclin E binds to CDK2, okay, the binding will permit the cell to enter and progress through the S phase. If there is no binding, then somewhat, okay, there the process will not progress to S phase. Okay, and then you have your cyclin A. Okay, since napag-usapan na po natin ang cyclin A, let's finish this cyclin. Sorry, since we did talk about cyclins, let's finish this cyclins here. Okay, your cyclin A, okay, you have cyclin D and cyclin E earlier. Okay, your cyclin A, please note, the cyclin A is synthesized in S phase. This one will bind to CDK2 and CDK1, cyclin-dependent kinase 1 and cyclin-dependent kinase 2. What is the function of this? It permits the cell to leave the S phase and enter the G2 phase. Okay, it permits the cell to leave the S phase and enter the G2 phase. And it will induce the formation of cyclin B. It will induce the formation of cyclin B. Your cyclin B will bind to CDK1 and will allow the cell to leave the G2 phase and enter the M phase. Please note that these are control mechanisms. These are control mechanisms for the cell cycle. Okay, aside from that, we will take a look at checkpoints. Okay, we will take a look at the checkpoints later on. And please note that after the cyclins have performed their specific functions, okay, so after the cyclins, yes, okay, the cell has permitted, the cell has pushed through, okay, the process, the cell cycle has pushed through the process. Okay, after the cyclins have performed their specific functions, okay, they will enter the ubiquitin proteasomal pathway. Okay, they will enter, the cyclins will enter the ubiquitin proteasome pathway. pathway. Okay, and please note that this ubiquitin proteasome pathway is a pathway for the disposal, for the degradation and disposal of proteins. Degradation, recycling, and disposal of proteins. Okay, because if they're not needed anymore, then they are not allowed to stay there. Okay, they are not allowed to stay there. They need to be degraded. They need to be recycled. They need to be disposed. Okay. Then you have your S phase or your synthesis phase or the synthetic phase of the cell cycle. Okay, this one, the genome is duplicated. Again, when you say genome, okay, that is the entire genetic material or the genetic material is duplicated. All the required nucleoproteins are imported and they are incorporated into the DNA molecule. The cell, this time, okay, the cell contains twice the normal complement of its DNA. Okay, the diploid, okay, the diploid amount of DNA is doubled. Okay, it becomes doubled accordingly. That is during the S phase. Okay, gap 2 phase, you have gap 2 phase. In this gap 2, RNA and proteins essential to cell division are synthesized. The energy for mitosis is stored. Okay, please note, mitotic division is, it requires energy. And the tubulin is synthesized for assembly in the microtubules required for mitosis. And DNA replication is analyzed for possible errors. Okay, that is during gap 2. Of course, the centrosome duplication is completed here also. Okay, and you have checkpoints here. Your checkpoints, these are present to safeguard against the early transition between phases. Okay, and will ensure meticulous completion of essential events. Okay, and so everything should be done. Okay, the things that are needed to be done in this phase should be done before you can move to the next cycle. There is no incomplete. There should be no incomplete somewhat. Okay, it ensures meticulous completion of essential events like adequate cell growth, correct DNA synthesis, proper chromosome segregation before permitting the cell to live its current phase of the cell cycle. Okay, and these checkpoints, okay, or the cell, it has checkpoints that can activate inhibitory pathways or by suppressing activating pathways. It can delay, okay? The cell accomplishes delays in progression through the cell cycle by activating inhibitory pathways or suppressing activating pathways accordingly. That is for your checkpoints. Let's take a look at the checkpoints listed. And the checkpoints, number one here is your G1 DNA damage checkpoint in G1 phase. Okay, of course, it will check or monitor DNA damage. If error has occurred, the cell may not enter the S phase. Your sDNA damage checkpoint in S phase, it monitors DNA replication. It monitors DNA replication. If an error has occurred, the cell may not leave the S phase. The cell may not permit or may not push through to the S phase. And then you have your unreplicated DNA checkpoint in G2 phase. The function is to check, okay, to check still. It's a checkpoint. So if not all of the DNA was replicated, then the cell may not leave the G2. The cell may not leave the G2 phase. And then you have your G2 damage checkpoint in G2 phase. Okay, if there are errors in the duplicated DNA, the cell may not leave the G2 phase. Okay, G2 damage checkpoint in G2 phase. If there is an error or there are errors in the duplicated DNA, the cell may not leave the G2 phase. And then you have your spindle assembly checkpoint. Your spindle assembly checkpoint checks if the spindle apparatus is not as, it checks if your spindle assembly checkpoint, it checks if the spindle apparatus is not assembled correctly. If it is not assembled correctly, then the cell may not leave the M phase. Okay? And your chromosome segregation checkpoint, this one checks if the chromosome has not separated correctly. Okay, it checks if the chromosome has not separated correctly. And okay, if that happens, if the chromosome has not separated correctly, the cell may not leave the M phase. Those are your checkpoints accordingly. Please note that your cell cycle, it is controlled. Okay, it is controlled. In mitosis, your mitosis, okay, the process of cell division, of course, that results in the formation of two identical daughter cells. Okay, that's the nucleus and the cytoplasm of the cell are divided equally into identical daughter cells. Of course, first is you have karyokinesis first and then cytokinesis. Okay, so you have the following phases. You have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Okay, so you have this one. Okay, and so giving you this acronym or yes, get a mnemonic. PMAT. You have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. Okay, so you have here, you have images here. Okay, so let's take a look at your prophase. Your prophase, the chromosomes condense to become visible microscopically. Again, the chromosomes condense to become visible microscopically. And the nucleolus disappears. The nucleolus disappears. And the centrosome divides into two regions. The centrosome divides into two regions. Each half, each region, or each region contains a pair of centrioles in a sea of gamma tubulin rings. Okay, and yes, you call that already as your microtubule organization center. Okay, your centrosome migrates away from each other. Okay, this the divided centrosome, they migrate away to the opposite poles to form your microtubule organization center. And by the way, as for your chromosomes, please note that each chromosome consists of two parallel sister chromatids. Okay, so for in the prophase, chromosomes condense to become visible because yes, chromosomes condense to become visible because prior to this, okay, the yes, the chromatin material is loose. Okay, the chromatin material is loose. Okay, so yes, this is for your prophase. Okay, your chromosomes condense. Okay, your chromatin material forms or condenses to form your chromosomes. Okay, you have your centrosome. Okay, you have your centrosome migrates towards the end, towards the opposite poles. Okay, towards the opposite poles. Okay, you have your new microtubule organization center. Okay, this one is for the next phase, for the metaphase. By the way, this is your chromosome. This is an illustration of your chromosome. You have two sister chromatids. You have two sister chromatids. Please note you have one. This one is one sister chromatid, and this one is one sister chromatid. Okay, the center, you call it as the centromere. Okay, the center is the centromere. Okay, and this is actually the basis of counting. Okay, the basis of counting your chromosomes. Okay, even if you have three sister chromatids here, but you have one centromere, then it is counted as one. Okay, the centromere is the basis of counting. Anyway, okay, this is the short arm, this is the long arm. Okay, and yes, you have here your telomeres. Okay, the tip or the end. Okay, the tips here of your chromosome, you call them as the telomere. Of course, you have here your sister. This is your chromatid. Okay, so in prophase, okay, there are other things that takes place. Please note you have your microtubule organization centers. Okay, they move to the opposite poles. Okay, so you have your microtubules here. You have three microtubules actually that will be organized here. Okay, from each microtubule organization center, you have astral microtubules, kinetochore microtubules, and polar microtubules develop, giving rise to the mitotic spindle apparatus. So you have three microtubules that will arise, okay, from your MTOC. Number one here, you have astral microtubules. Your astral microtubules, they radiate out from the pole of the spindle. Okay, your astral microtubules radiate out from the pole of your mitotic spindle apparatus. And these astral microtubules, okay, that is the source from the spindle apparatus, okay, the function of your astral microtubules, they assist in retaining each microtubule organization center at its pole of the cell. Okay, again, they assist in retaining each microtubule organization center at its pole of the cell. Meaning, okay, you guys, you MTOC, you stay right there. Do not move. Okay, do not move there. Do not move here. Okay, you stay right there. Okay, that is the job of these astral microtubules. And they ensure that, or they assist, sorry, and they ensure that the spindle apparatus is oriented in the correct direction. Then you have your kinetochore microtubules. Your kinetochore microtubules, they attach to the kinetochores of the sister chromatids. Okay, please note you have kinetochores. Your kinetochores of your sister chromatids, they are located at the centromere. Okay, your kinetochores, again, your kinetochores of your sister chromatids, they are located at the centromere, at the centromere portion. Okay, and they assist in separating the sister chromatids from each other during anaphase and pulling them to the opposite poles of the cell. That is for your kinetochore microtubules. Please note that if there is no centrioles, your microtubule nucleating material is dispersed within the cytoplasm. Okay, again, if there is no centrioles, your microtubule nucleating material is dispersed within the cytoplasm. The astral microtubule and the kinetochore, sorry, the astral microtubule and the kinetochore microtubule do not form properly if there is no centrioles. And then, okay, yes, you have your mitotic spindle here. You have your mitotic spindle. Okay, and then you have your polar microtubules. Microtubules, still this is part of your MTOC. Okay, your polar microtubules, they originate from the two microtubule organizing center. Okay, they originate from the two microtubule organizing center, from the opposite poles. Okay, and they elongate and meet the center of the cell. They elongate. Okay, imagine, okay, from opposite poles. Okay, you have microtubules. that originate from this two poles, two microtubule organization center, and they elongate, and then meet at the center. Okay. Once they meet at the center, okay, then they maintain, they stay as is. Okay. Because the function of your polar microtubules is that they ensure that the two microtubule organizing center are maintained at the respective locations at the opposite poles of the cell, and they should not migrate toward each other. Okay, and the work this maintaining the MTOCs at the opposite poles is assisted by your astral microtubules. Okay. And then, of course, your prometaphase. Your prometaphase, this one begins when the nuclear envelope disappears and the chromosomes. Yes, please note in prometaphase, the nuclear envelope disappears. Okay, or in prophase. Okay, in prophase, the nuclear envelope disappears. The chromosomes are arranged randomly throughout the cytoplasm, and the chromosome is composed. Again, the chromosome is composed of two sister chromatids held together or held to each other by a complex of proteins. You have cohesins and condensins. Okay, at the centromere region. Okay, at the centromere region. And then you have your metaphase. The metaphase, okay, your chromosomes, they are condensed and are lined up at the equatorial plate or at the equator of the mitotic spindle. Okay, so this one is for your metaphase. This is for your metaphase. Okay, of course, you have your mitotic spindles here. Okay, your spindle fibers. Sorry, you have here your kinetochore microtubules, by the way, sorry. And then of course you have your spindle. And then you have anaphase. Your anaphase, in anaphase, the sister chromatids separate and begin to migrate to the opposite poles of the cell. Okay, they begin to migrate at the opposite poles of the cell. Okay, so how is this done? How do they migrate? Okay, how do they migrate? Please note that you have spindle fibers, you have microtubules. Okay, you have microtubules or you have spindle fibers that has attached to the kinetochore apparatus of your uh, chromosome. Okay? And shortening of the microtubules via depolymerization at the kinetochore end will, okay, it will cause the migration or it will cause the separation and migration of the sister chromatids. Okay? Depolymerization. Ay, parang you pull, and then it will depolymerize. Meaning, if it will depolymerize, it will shorten. The spindle fiber or the microtubule will shorten. And then pull, and then depolymerize. Okay, it will shorten. Okay, until it will reach the opposite. And, okay, and in anaphase, you have a cleavage furrow that begins to form in the late anaphase. You have a cleavage furrow that begins to form in the late anaphase. Okay, so you have here your sister chromatids being pulled apart. Okay, sister chromatids being pulled apart, of course. And yes, in anaphase, a cleavage furrow, of course, you have a cleavage furrow here. Okay, that is formed. Of course, the cleavage furrow is caused by contraction of contractile proteins. We will take a look at that one. In telophase, each set of chromosomes has reached its respective pole. Okay, each set of chromosomes has reached its respective pole, and the nuclear envelope is reconstituted during the telophase. Because if you remember, during the Prometaphase or during the late prophase, the nuclear envelope is dissolved. Yes, is dissolved. Okay? And in telophase, the nuclear envelope is reconstituted or it reformed and the chromosomes uncoil, okay? Because 'di ba, they become condensed. Okay? They become condensed kaya nagkaroon ng ganun na itsura. But then in telophase, the chromosomes uncoil, they they lighten, okay, they uncoil, and they become organized into heterochromatin and euchromatin of the interphase cell. Okay, they they uncoil and they become heterochromatin and euchromatin. And during the telophase, the nucleolus is developed from the nuclear organizing regions. Again, the nucleolus is developed from the nucleolar organizing regions of each of five pairs of, on each of the five pairs of chromosomes. That is for the telophase. Okay, this is already your telophase. Okay, already your telophase. So what I've said earlier, okay, nuclear division takes place first before cytoplasmic division. So karyokinesis before cytokinesis. Okay? Cytokinesis, karyokinesis before cytokinesis. Okay? So still, you have, okay, the nuclear envelope as is reformed or reassembled. Okay, and then you have the nucleolus. Nucleolus is reformed. Okay, and please note the cleavage furrow, okay, depends. The furrow depends. Okay, the furrow depends here. Okay, this is an illustration, a microscopic illustration. Okay, you have here your sister chromatids being pulled apart. You have your MTOCs here. You have your MTOCs. Okay, and then yes, cytokinesis is occurring in this one. Cytokinesis, this is the division of the cytoplasm to produce two equal parts during mitosis. And in cytokinesis, the cleavage furrow continues to deepen until only the mid body. And please note, there is a contractile ring that is composed of actin and myosin filaments. There is a contractile ring that is composed of actin and myosin filaments. These are contractile proteins, if you remember. Okay, so let's take a look. Yes, you already have, okay? You already have a two nuclei. Yes, you already have a two nuclei. But then the daughter cells still, okay, the daughter cells are connected by bridge of cytoplasm. Okay, during this phase. Okay, the daughter cells are still connected by bridge of cytoplasm and polar microtubules. And please note that the polar microtubules, they are surrounded by a contractile ring. They are surrounded by a contractile ring. Okay? If you try to remember, you have polar microtubules that, what you call this, that maintains the location of your MTOC. Okay? And hindi pa po siya nawala. Okay? Andyan pa rin po siya. These polar microtubules, they are surrounded by a contractile ring. And as what I've said earlier, this contractile ring is made of actin and myosin filaments that are attached to the plasma membrane. They are attached to the plasma membrane. What happens? Since these are contractile proteins, this actin and myosin will they continue to constrict the ring. Okay? They continue to constrict the ring. Constrict the ring, constrict the ring. Okay? They continue to constrict the ring. What happens to the polar microtubules? The polar microtubules depolymerizes. Okay? Depolymerizes. Okay? The polar microtubules, they depolymerize. Okay? Separating the two daughter cells. Okay, so the contractile ring is we call this it continues to constrict until it will pinch off. Okay, the contractile ring will continue to constrict, to constrict, to constrict until it will pinch off. Okay, giving two daughter cells. Okay, so each daughter cell resulting from mitosis is identical in every respect. Okay, identical in every respect, including the entire genome as well as the amount of chromosomes. Yes, to sum up your mitosis, okay, you have here the interphase and then to your prophase, okay. In your prophase, of course, the chromosomes begins or starts to condense, and then your nuclear envelope disappears, okay, and then metaphase, okay, line up in a single file, and then anaphase, then telophase. Telophase, of course, at the end, you have cytokinesis. Your meiosis. Please note that mitosis, that is the division of your somatic cells. Okay, that is the division of your somatic cells or your body cells. Example, you have your keratinocytes, your blood cells. Whereas in meiosis, okay, please note of this, in meiosis, this one occurs only in your gametes. This one only occurs in your gametes, okay, or in your sex cells. You have two sex cells, okay. You have egg cells or your oocyte, and you have sperm cells or spermatozoa for males, oocyte or egg cells for females. Okay, so in meiosis, this one produces the germ cells. It produces the germ cells, or it takes place in your gametes. Please note that meiosis ensures that each gamete carries the haploid amount of DNA and the haploid number of chromosomes. Okay, so the end product of your, or the end, okay, the end or the daughter cells in meiosis, they should have haploid amount of DNA and haploid number of chromosomes. Okay, again, the results of your meiosis, there is a reduction in the number of chromosomes from the diploid to the haploid number. Okay, and yes, there is a recombination of genes that takes place in meiosis. There is a recombination of genes that will ensure genetic variability and diversity of the gene pool. Okay, this recombination here is the reason why you are not exactly the same as your mother. It is the reason why you are not exactly the same as your father. Okay? That is for your recombination. And yes, recombination takes place in meiosis. Okay? There is no recombination in mitosis. Please note that your meiosis it is divided into two. You have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. For your meiosis 1, you have homologous pairs of chromosomes line up, and the members of each pair separate and go to the opposite poles, and the cell divides. And each daughter cell receives half the number of chromosomes. Please note, each daughter cell receives half the number of chromosomes. But then, okay, it's not half the number of genetic material. Okay, please note it is different. Okay, each daughter cell receives half the number of chromosomes in meiosis 1, but then the number of DNA is not half. Okay, it's not yet haploid. Okay, this one is for meiosis 1. Okay, it states here there is crossing over that occurs. Okay, this one is for meiosis 1. Meiosis 2, the two sister chromatids of which chromosomes are separated, and the sister chromatids migrate to the opposite poles and formation of two daughter cells. That is for meiosis. In meiosis 2, it is somewhat the same with mitosis. Again, in meiosis 2, it is somewhat the same with mitosis. The events are the same with mitosis. The difference is that the number of DNA or the number of genetic material present in the daughter cells. Before we take a look at your meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, let's take a look first at the S phase preceding meiosis. Please note that when the germ cells are in the S phase of the cell cycle preceding meiosis, the amount of DNA is doubled to 4n. Okay? Again, the amount of DNA is doubled to 4n. Okay? The amount of DNA is doubled into 4n. Okay? Whereas the chromosome number remains at 2n, 46 chromosomes. Meaning, okay, please note, the amount of DNA is doubled to 4. 4n, it's doubled. Okay? While the chromosome number remains 2n or 46 chromosomes. Or let's take a look at this one. Okay? You have 46 chromosomes in total. Okay? Before prophase 1. You have 46 chromosomes in total, but then you have 96, sorry, but then you have 92 chromatids. Okay? But then you have 92 chromatids. Please take note of that. Okay? Please take note of that. Okay? 46. Okay, 46 chromosomes in total, but then the amount of DNA is doubled, giving you 92 chromatids. Okay, so let's take a look at prophase 1. Okay, by the way, again, as what I've said, your meiosis, it is divided into two. You have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Okay, and then you still have your prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1, and then prophase 2, and then the rest. Okay, for prophase 1, it is divided into four phases. You have the leptothene, the zygotine, and the pachytene, as well as the yakinesis. In leptothene, please note the individual chromosomes are composed of two chromatids that begin to condense. Okay? In leptothene, the individual chromosomes, which are composed of two chromatids, begin to condense, forming long strands in the nucleus. Somewhat, yes. Okay? Somewhat, it is the same. Okay? They condense to form chromosome. Okay, and then you have zygotine. The zygotine, the homologous pairs of chromosomes line up in register. Okay, they line up in register and they approximate each other. Okay, so you have homologous pairs, they line up in register and they approximate each other. And yes, they line up in register and they approximate each other somewhat gene locus to gene locus. Okay, they make synapses via the synaptonemal complex. And yes, they form tetrads. Okay, they form tetrads. This is actually metaphase 1. This is metaphase 1. You have pachytene. In pachytene, the chromosomes continue to condense, becoming thicker and shorter. Again, in pachytene, the chromosomes continue to condense and they become thicker and shorter. In pachytene, there is the random exchange of genetic material. okay, or the random exchange of genetic material occurs during the Pachytene. Okay, if you try to remember, there is tetrads that has taken place. Okay, and yes, in that synaptonemal complex, okay, the random exchange of genetic material occurs between homologous chromosomes. Okay, so in this time, there is the formation of chiasmata. Chiasmata here is the crossing over sites. Chiasmata, this is the crossing over sites. Okay, and in the chiasmata, okay, in this chiasmata, this is the site wherein a portion, a gene located in the homologous chromosome is transferred in the in the other chromosome and vice versa. And then you have diplotin. Diplotin, your chromosomes continue to condense and then begin to separate. Your chromosomes continue to condense and then begin to separate, revealing the chiasma. Okay, and your diakinesis, the chromosomes condenses maximally, the nucleolus disappears, and the nucleolide envelope disappears also. That is for diplotin, diakine, and diakine. Metaphase 1. In metaphase 1, your homologous chromosomes align as pairs on the equatorial plate in a random order. Please note that your homologous chromosomes, each of them are composed of two chromatids and they line on the equatorial plate of the meiotic spindle. Okay, and they pair on, I mean, they, yes, they line up in a random order. This one will ensure subsequent reshuffling of the maternal and paternal chromosomes. Okay, but then please note that the four sister chromatids are attached to each other. And then you have your kinetochore microtubules, which become attached to the kinetochore of the chromosomes. This is metaphase 1. Okay, this is metaphase 1. Pairs of homologous chromosomes move to the equator of the cell or to the meiotic equator. Okay, of course, you have here, same actually happens with the organization of your microtubule organizing center as well as your microtubules here. Okay, the assembly of microtubules is the same in mitosis. And then you have anaphase 1. Your homologous chromosomes, they migrate away from each other, and the four sister chromatids are separated to form two pairs of sister chromatids. Okay, again, in anaphase 1, the homologous chromosomes migrate away from each other, and the four sister chromatids are separated to form two pairs of sister chromatids. Okay, so you have this one. Your homologous chromosomes move to the opposite poles of the cell. Same mechanism. Okay, same mechanism of pulling, same mechanism of polymerization. Okay, with the mitosis. Okay, and then you have telophase. Telophase, the chromosomes reach the opposing poles. Okay, the nuclei are reformed and cytokinesis occurs. Okay, and yes, each cell possess three each cell possess 23 chromosomes, the one end number. But then please note the DNA content is still diploid. The DNA content is still diploid. Okay, meaning the DNA content is still 46. The DNA content is 46. But the chromosome number is only 23. Okay, the chromosome number is only 23. Okay, so yes, this is for your telophase. Okay, the chromosomes gather at the poles of the cells and the cytoplasm divide. Same actually with the pinching off, same actually with the constriction. Okay, same with the constriction of your contractile ring in uh, mitosis. Okay, and then you have meiosis. Meiosis 2. Meiosis 2. Please note that right after right after the production of right after the production of two daughter cells in meiosis 1, the cells will go right away to meiosis 2. Okay, the cells will go right away to meiosis. So there is no interface here. Okay, there is no interface in between meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Okay, there is no interface between meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Okay, so in meiosis 2, there is no DNA synthesis. There is no interface. There is no gap 1. There is no gap 2. There is no synthesis phase. Okay, it proceeds rapidly through the four phases and cytokinesis. Okay, so it forms four daughter cells, each with haploid chromosome number. Okay, each with haploid chromosome number. And this one is very similar to mitosis. It is very similar to mitosis. So please note, you write it down. Your starting cell in meiosis 2 is two cells, two daughter cells from meiosis 1. And each of these cells, pakisulat po, okay? Again, your starting cells in meiosis 2, you have two cells from meiosis 1. And the DNA content is uh, diploid. The DNA content is diploid. Okay, the DNA content is diploid 46, but the chromosome number is haploid. It's 23 chromosomes only. Okay po? That is your starting cell. Again, your starting cell in meiosis 1, the DNA content is, your starting cell in meiosis 2 is are actually two cells that is produced from meiosis 1. And the DNA content is diploid, diploid, meaning 46. But then, the chromosome number is only 23. 23 chromosome number and yes, okay, 23 chromosome number. Meiosis 2, as what we said earlier, it is very similar with the events in mitosis. Okay, your prophase 2, of course, the chromatin condenses. Okay, and in metaphase 2, the chromosomes line up on the equatorial plate, and then kinetochores will attach to the kinetochore microtubules, and your sister chromatids migrate to the opposite poles in anaphase 2, and in telophase 2, karyokinesis and cytokinesis occurs. Cytokinesis, of course, divides each of the two cells, and each of the four cells contain a haploid amount of DNA and a haploid number of chromosome. Please note that the four cells resulting from the meiosis contain haploid number of chromosomes and are genetically distinct because of reshuffling of the chromosomes and crossing over. Okay, again, they are genetically distinct. Okay, meaning when you say distinct, okay, they are not the same. They are genetically distinct. Okay, please note they are genetically distinct. But the content, okay, the number of what call this, the number of organelles, cytoplasmic organelles, the size, they are the same. But then the difference is the genetics, or yes, the DNA that is present. Why? Because there is a reshuffling of the chromosome and crossing over. That is why every gamete contains its own unique genetic complement. Okay? In meiosis, that happens in meiosis. Okay? Every gamete contains its own unique genetic complement. Okay, let's go back here at the haploid amount of DNA. Okay, at the haploid amount of DNA. Please note that, remember, your starting cell in meiosis 2 is actually two cells. You have two cells, and each of the two cells, they contain 46, or they contain diploid DNA. They contain 46 DNA and 23 chromosomes. Okay, they contain diploid DNA and 23 chromosomes. So, okay, so you have 46. Okay, you have 46 DNA and 23 or haploid chromosomes. Okay, so at the end, in the end of meiosis 2, okay, so what happens? You did chop. You chop your 46. Yes. You chop your 46 DNA. Okay, you divided your 46 DNA. You distributed them into, okay, you distributed them into the daughter cells. Okay, giving you haploid amount of DNA and haploid chromosome number. Okay, I hope I explained it clear. Okay, so you have here in metaphase 2, the chromosomes line up at the equator. Again, the chromosomes line up at the equator. Please note the chromosomes here, okay, the chromosome content is haploid. The chromosome content is 23. But the DNA content is, okay, the DNA content is 46 or diploid. The DNA content is diploid. Okay, so in this one, this is anaphase. Okay, the sister chromatids separate. And then, of course, finally, okay, telophase. In telophase, the nucleolus reappears, and then the nuclear envelope reforms. And the cleavage furrow deepens, the contractile ring constricts until it pinches off, giving you separate daughter cells, giving you two separate daughter cells. Okay, so this one shows you your meiosis. Okay, so in meiosis 1, your end product is two cells. Your end product is two daughter cells. Okay, two daughter cells. Okay, diploid DNA content, but haploid chromosomes. Okay, diploid DNA content, but haploid chromosomes. In meiosis 2, okay, of course, the same process. You have prophase, anaphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, giving you the product. So your end products here, okay, you have a haploid DNA and haploid chromosome, okay, which are genetically distinct. Okay, genetically different. Hindi po sila magkakaparehas ng DNA ng laman. May pagkakaiba po. Okay? So, just real quick for mitosis, the end products, the products are genetically the same. Okay, genetically the same daughter cells. In meiosis, the end products, in meiosis 2, the end daughter cells, they are four genetically distinct cells. Okay? So you have your cell death. Your cell death, of course, it is caused by acute injury, accidents, lack of vascular supply, or destruction by pathogens or by the immune system, and genetic programming. You have your physiologic cell death or programmed cell death. You call it as apoptosis. Anyway, okay, please note that during embryogenesis, there are many cells which are driven into the genetically determined process of dying. Yes, when you say apoptosis, that is your programmed cell death. Apoptosis, that is programmed cell death. And please note, It must be carefully regulated, controlled, and monitored. Whereas your necrosis, when you say necrosis, this is the death of a cell in an unregulated fashion. Okay, the cell dies in an unregulated fashion. This is probably due to attack or traumatic injury causing the cell to rupture. Causing the cell to rupture, exposing its contents to the neighboring cells. When the contents are exposed to the neighboring cells, the contents may initiate an immune or an inflammatory response. So I guess let's end here. Let's continue some other time. And this has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. And as you move forward, may you always choose curiosity over fear, kindness over convenience, and growth over comfort. Celebrate your small victories. Honor your quiet moments and trust that every step, no matter how uncertain, shapes the story you are meant to tell. The world is wide, your time is precious, and your journey is uniquely yours. So go make it extraordinary. Again, this has been Gael. Thank you. Thank you so much, and see you around.